Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the SHU Sports Report. I'm Adam Chambers.
And I'm Gino Ganello. Adam, it's hard to believe, but finals are right around the corner and winter break's coming up too.
That's right, Gino. 2017 is quickly coming to a close, but Sacred Heart sports won't be ending anytime soon. Speaking of which, women's ice hockey is looking to end 2017 on quite the win streak.
Yeah, that's right, Adam. Women's ice hockey continued their successful win streak this past weekend as they had a home-and-home series with Becker College. Things were fairly easy in the first game for the Pioneers as they took the game to Becker on the road right from the puck drop. Taylor Moreland helped the Pioneers jump out to an early 2-0 lead with 2 goals in the first 6 minutes of the game. From there, SHU would dominate, tacking on 4 more goals and completing the shutout for the 6-0 road win. Taylor Moreland would get another goal late in the second period to give herself a hat trick on the night as goalie Devin Kane would mark down 11 saves in her shutout performance. Now traveling home for their second match against Becker, the Pioneers would find things a little more difficult. Things would start out the same as a Savannah Hersey power play goal early in the second would give SHU a 2-0 lead. But this time, Becker would show some fight, scoring a goal 3 minutes later to cut the deficit to 2-1. None of that mattered, though, as the Pioneers would put another in the back of the net later on in the second to give them a 2-goal lead that they would carry until the end of the game. The 3-1 win is the Pioneers' 10th in 11 games as they are now 10-3 on the season. Senior Taylor Moreland once again made herself known on the score sheet as she contributed on 2 of the 3 Sacred Heart goals. The Pioneers will travel to Lebanon Valley this weekend in hopes of continuing their winning ways as we near the midway point of the season.
Hopefully they can get into the double digits on that win streak.
Yeah, absolutely. They're at 6 wins right now, and they're having a great 2017 season, hoping, and we wish them the best of luck on the rest of their 2017 schedule. And now moving to the men's side, we're hoping that they can pick things up, get back to winning ways. Why don't you get us all caught up on how they're doing?
Absolutely. Sacred Heart men's ice hockey had a tough conference bout against Mercyhurst as they traveled to Pennsylvania for the 2-game series. In the series opener against the Lakers, SHU got off to a 2-0 lead with 2 first-period goals by Jason Cotton and Stephen Ladden. Mercyhurst would get 1 back later in the period and cut the deficit down to 1. After a quiet second period, the Pioneers had a tough time putting the game away in the third. SHU went on the power play with a little over a minute and a half to go in regulation, but Mercyhurst picked up the turnover and tied it at 2-2, with a shorthanded goal with 17 seconds left to go in regulation. The Pioneers had chances in overtime, earning the man advantage for the first 2.5 minutes, but were unable to capitalize. SHU gave Mercyhurst the power play opportunity with just over a minute remaining as the home team sunk the game winner with 52 seconds remaining. For the second game of the series, Sacred Heart got off to an early 2-0 lead again. Mercyhurst would then work their way back to make the deficit down with a score of 3-2. SHU would go ahead and on Jason Cotton's second goal of the game on a power play in the third period. Cotton had his first multi-goal game with 3 other goals scored by 3 other players: Vito Bavaro, Corey Kennedy, and Jordan Kaplan, who all found the back of the net. They would improve to 4-10-2 on the year. They host Yale at the Webster Bank Arena this Saturday at 7 p.m. Men's ice hockey has a tough road ahead of them as they play the end of 2017 portion schedule, having plenty of opportunities to end on a high note.
Yeah, absolutely. They got Yale and then 2 games against Holy Cross. That'll be their test. But stay tuned because after the break, we will have more Sacred Heart sports action with Anthony Saccone standing by with this week's Update Corner.
Welcome back to the SHU Sports Report. I'm Anthony Saccone, and we will get things started on this week's Update Corner with some Sacred Heart bowling. Saturday and Sunday marked the first NEC bowling meet of the season, and it was a solid weekend for the Pioneers as they went 4-2 overall, and they ended in a dead tie with NEC foe LIU Brooklyn and St. Francis. Leading the way for the Pios was sophomore Tori Broughton with an average of 20.70 each frame. Sacred Heart defeated FDU 1469 to 1379, as well as Caldwell by a final of 1146 to 1020. Bowling hits the lanes again in the new year as they travel to Reading, Pennsylvania for the Kutztown Golden Bear Invitational, starting Friday, January 19th. Elsewhere, Sacred Heart's men's wrestling kicked off their first home matchup this past weekend as they hosted George Mason here at the Pit. This match would be a tough, hard-nosed battle, but in the end, George Mason was able to take the match by a final of 32-10. Some standout players for the Pioneers were senior Dom Selly, who defeated his opponent 8-3, and fellow classmate Paul Klee, who also defeated his opponent by a score of 17-5. The Pioneers will now take the hike up to Springfield, Massachusetts to take on American International College on Friday, December 8th at 6 p.m. As for women's fencing, they had quite a spectacular weekend, rattling off a pair of victories. They defeated Vassar with a 19-8 final, as it was junior McKenna Lamphere and fellow classmate Hassoni Austin who led the way. Sacred Heart then went on to a tough 14-3 victory over NYU. Both Bailey Patridge and sophomore Gabrielle Petrie picked up wins in foil. Both Sacred Heart men's and women's teams will open the 2018 season with the Philadelphia Invitational on January 20th. Swimming and diving recently competed at the ECAC Winter Championship. The tournament kicked off on Friday, December 1st. Setting the tone for the Pioneers was the stellar freshman Margaret Flaherty. She opened the weekend by capturing the school record in the 500 freestyle. Flaherty finished with a 17.25, which was good enough to take home 5th place overall. Other Pioneers who followed suit was sophomore Lauren Summers, who set a school and ECAC record by winning the 200 freestyle with a time of 1:51.37. The Pioneers set 4 career bests on the weekend during the ECAC Winter Championships. Overall, the Pioneers now sit in 5th place in the current standings. Swimming and diving will be back in the pool as they bring in the new year at Manhattan on January 13th. Equestrian had a busy weekend as both Hunt Seat and Western held competitions of the weekend. First off, Hunt Seat was home, and they were 1 point away from tying Connecticut College and Fairfield for a reserve High Point team. The Pioneers took 3rd place or higher in 9 of the events, with Gabby Sorrentino and Cecilia Mathon taking first in their respective events. Western had 2 events back-to-back at Mount Holyoke College. The first competition, SHU took reserve High Point team, with Devin Conley taking reserve High Point rider. In the second competition, Equestrian took High Point team with 27 points. Devin Conley and Olivia Zwerneman both qualified for Western Regionals with their excellent performances. Equestrian will be back in the saddle when they bring in the new year, as Western heads to UConn on February 3rd and Hunt Seat heads to CCSU on the 4th. Men and women indoor track and field opened their 2017-18 season this past weekend at the Boston University season opener. Starting off with the men's team, Sacred Heart had strong outings throughout the event. It was senior Pierre Sebastian who placed 11th out of 36 finishers in the 300 meters event with a new personal best time of 34.78 seconds. In the 3,000 meters event, senior Trevor Guerrera placed 5th out of 47 finishers with a new personal best time of 8 minutes and 21 seconds. In the field events, senior Michael Kearns took 6th out of 17 throwers in the shot put event with a distance of 15.86 meters, and this was good enough for a new indoor track and field record. With his performance this past weekend, Guerrera earned NEC Indoor Track and Field Athlete of the Week. Now moving on to the women's indoor track and field, senior Kate Svensson placed 22nd out of 44 finishers in the 5,000 meter event with a new personal best of 17 minutes and 44 seconds, while fellow classmate Selena Sampieri tied for 8th out of 19 qualifiers in the pole vault competition with a height of 3.3 meters in the throwing events. Sacred Heart had two strong standout performances by sophomore Brianna Laviniere, throwing a new personal best distance of 12.25 meters in the shot put, and senior Aqua Dusowo Izenyalimba, who placed first in the weight throw event with a new personal best of 16.93 meters. Svensson earned NEC Track and Field Athlete of the Week with her performance over the weekend. Both teams are back in action at the Yale University season opener in Cox Cage, New Haven on Sunday the 9th. And that's all the time we have for this week's Update Corner, but for more on indoor track and field and their 2017-18 season, we have Mike Haase sitting with head coach Christian Morrison.
Hello, everyone. I'm here with men's and women's cross country and track and field head coach Christian Morrison. Coach, thanks for stopping by to talk with us.
Sure thing.
Coming off a successful cross country season, the men's team took 2nd place and the women won their 4th NEC title in 5 years. Is there any way to carry that success in the cross country courses to the indoor season?
Yeah, I think so. First off, the distance runners are a significant part of the track and field program. I mean, we have 4 event groups in the track and field program, but they're the largest group, and they can score a lot of points. So when you are one of the better distance programs in the conference, and then you're strong in the other event groups, I mean, I think it gives you a great start on things, when it comes to scoring enough points to contend for the indoor championships.
And the indoor season started last weekend up at BU. A great performance for a couple of your athletes. Senior Trevor Guerrero was the NEC Men's Athlete of the Week. He ran a great 3K, the second fastest in the country. What does his performances over the last couple of years on the indoor track mean for your men's team going forward?
Well, Trevor's one of the best male athletes we've ever had in our program at Sacred Heart. Probably one of the best male athletes, period, at Sacred Heart. He's won 6 individual NEC titles in the last 3 years, and I think he's got a great chance to win some more this year. So by the time he graduates, he could have the most that any athlete in our program has ever won if his senior year goes well and as I expect it to. So knowing that you're going into the conference to meet with a guy who's going to put up some big points for you right off the bat is kind of comforting for me as a coach, and certainly for the athletes on the team too, knowing that they can look to a guy like Trevor to lead them into the battle.
And he was the most outstanding distance performer at last year's NEC, so definitely it's something to build on going into his last indoor season. Moving on to the women's team, which has won 4 straight NEC indoor titles. Kate Svensson was the NEC Women's Athlete of the Week, ran a great 5K. She won the individual cross-country championship in the fall. It really feels like, when we talked earlier about how your distance program's been very strong, it feels like that's been the staple for your women's indoor teams over the last couple of years. The distance group has certainly contributed mightily to each of our championships. Though I do want to emphasize that we really have a well-rounded team. At last year's indoor championship, our women scored in every single event, and that was the first time we ever did that. And that's not something you see very often. Most college track teams have some events where where they're weak or they don't really have anyone who's competitive, but we usually have some good athletes in every single event. But going back to your original question, the distance runners do a lot of point scoring for us, certainly. All right, Coach, thanks for coming down today. Best of luck this weekend, whether it's at Rhode Island. I know the women have a pentathlon up there, and the Yale season opener down at the Cox Cage on Saturday. We hope to hear more from you in the new year as we look to the NEC Indoor Meet in February.
Welcome back to the SHU Sports Report. We'll keep things rolling with some Sacred Heart hoops.
Women's basketball had 2 home games this past week, with Hofstra visiting the Pitt Center on Thursday to start things off. The women's basketball team hosted a strong Hofstra team looking for another home win. The Pioneers rallied when they were down by 8 in the fourth quarter to send it into overtime. SHU had the chance to put the game to bed after freshman Adrian Haygood made an old-fashioned 3-point play with under a minute left to play. Hofstra ended up pushing the floor, and in a double overtime, they would eventually lose the second OT 86-81. Candace Leatherwood and Catherine Haynes each had 20-point games. The Pioneers fell to 1-4 on the season. Next up, they looked to get back on track in their winning ways as Lehigh University came to the Pit for an early Sunday afternoon game. After Taikara Carter with the go-ahead basket, the Pioneers led throughout the game with less than 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Then Lehigh started to make an impressive comeback, but it wasn't enough as the Pioneers pulled away in the last 3 minutes of the game, grabbing the win 65-55. Taikara Carter, Candace Leatherwood, Catherine Haynes, and Erin Stork would all finish with double-digit points, which helped the Pioneers close out the win 65-55 and improve to 2-4 on the season. The Pioneers host Providence to start off a basketball doubleheader this Saturday starting at 1 p.m.
We'll keep it on the hardwood as men's hoops had a full week of action. On Wednesday, the Pioneers men's basketball team took on UMass Lowell on the road in hopes of turning their season around and getting back to winning ways. UMass Lowell would be the ones jumping out in front in this one as they took a 10-point lead early in the first half. But the Pioneers did not give up and eventually worked themselves back into this one before trading baskets before the half and going to the break down 39-35. From there, it was all Sacred Heart as the Pios took the lead early in the second half and built it to as high as 11 with under 2 minutes to go. A late comeback by UMass would not be enough as SHU would take this one 87-80 to move to 3-4 on the season. Joseph Lopez would lead all Pioneers again with 20 points to go along with 13 rebounds. Sacred Heart would then travel to St. John's to take on one of the more well-known teams in college basketball. This one would be tight throughout the first half, but the Red Storm managed to pull away and defeat the Pios handily 90-55. Kinnan LaRose and Mario Matasovich would lead the team in this one with 12 points each. Finally, on Tuesday, SHU welcomed Dartmouth to Coach Bike Court in only their third home game of the season. It was a tight first half as neither team held larger than a 6-point lead until there was about 3 minutes left to the break when Sacred Heart was able to take a 9-point lead that they would basically maintain until halftime where they led 40-32. After that, it was all Pioneers as SHU managed to build their lead to as much as 18 midway through the second half. Dartmouth would push to get back in the game, but the comeback fell short as the Pios took this one 79-73. Junior guard Sean Hone would lead all Pioneers with a career-high 19 points. Sacred Heart will now welcome Lafayette to Fairfield on Saturday in hopes of putting together back-to-back wins and get back to 500 on the season. We hope to see everyone out at the Pitt Center cheering on both basketball teams this Saturday afternoon and then head to Webster Bank Arena to cheer on the men's ice hockey team. From all of us here at the SHU Sports Report, I'm Gino Ganello.
And I'm Adam Chambers. Thanks for watching and be sure to tune in next week for our final show of 2017.